I can't see anybody's cameras, which is totally fine if you have them off. I just want to make sure you can hear me. Is there anyone who could just like turn on your camera for just a sec so I know that the audio is working and you can hear me okay?
I can hear.
You can hear? Awesome. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. Okay. In that case, we are good to go. Recording going. It's really, really, really exciting and fun for me to have this opportunity to talk about homeschooling and not just homeschooling, because a lot of people who are either joining us now or going to watch the recording later, they're not homeschooling and they're not even considering homeschooling. This is a really diverse group. It's first of all, this is the largest live webinar I've done. We'll see how many people come on live, but over 45 people signed up to do this around the world. We have people in Australia and France and Israel and even Ghana in Africa. The people who are interested in talking about education and the people who are interested in talking about their children's growth and development are so diverse. We are diverse religiously, we're diverse geographically, and we're diverse in terms of where our kids are actually doing. There are some parents who are on or who are going to be watching who are already homeschooling, who've been doing it for years. You have others who have no desire and no interest to start homeschooling. This is not something that's even on their plan. You have parents who are happy with where their kids are being educated. Now you have parents who are not. So there's no common denominator in any of those areas between all of us. But there is a really important common denominator, and there's a reason why I can speak here with you and you can share with me, and we all speak the same language, no matter where our kids go to school, no matter if they don't go to school, no matter where we live, because all of us are intentional and engaged as parents. We all believe that our role in our children's lives is important, that we have something to offer that nobody else can, that our input, our opinions, our experiences, everything we have to offer our children matters. So, what I hope to give you today is a framework within which that you can all think about your child's education, your children's paths, where they seem to be going, where you think they should be going, um, and develop on your own a confident route, a practical route, a way to be able to give them what you know you are able to give them, whether that means homeschooling or whether it doesn't mean homeschooling. Because home education to me just means an involved parent, a parent who is not checking out of their job as a parent as soon as their child leaves the house at 9 in the morning or wherever, whenever, but a parent who is engaged, who takes the responsibility of having their child seriously. And we're going to get to that in just a second. I want to give you a framework for where we're going today. It's totally okay if no one wants their cameras on, but if you do want it on, I love seeing your faces also, so that would be nice. And I also want to, I'm going to present an approach to home education, an approach to education, an approach to raising children. And then afterwards, I'd like to open up the floor to you and let you ask questions, comment, give your experience, chat, whatever it is that you want to try and get, directly out of this. And I'm also going to be sharing with you a new program that I'm hoping that I am unfolding and introducing today, where throughout the year for the next, well, 13, 14 months, like through next summer, we'll be able to offer parents, whether you are homeschooling or whether your children are in school, a small group of like-minded parents, a community within which you can get confidence, resources, suggestions, support, a community with monthly topics, monthly live conversations with me on really relevant, practical topics. How to manage multiple ages at once, how to deal with a child who's in a school that is not and isn't thriving. Very specific topics for your specific group. So we're going to get all there in a little bit. And now I just want to start by talking about what do I mean when I say homeschooling. Every parent homeschools. in my book. Because from the very first moment a child is born, our children are learning from their parents. Their parents are their primary teachers. And literally from infancy, that child is watching and absorbing. And you are the one who taught your baby that when they cry, you will come to them. You're the one who taught your children how to self-soothe, how to be calm, how to fall asleep at night, how to get onto a normal day-night cycle. You're the one who taught your kids how to wave bye bye. You're the one who taught your children how to blow kisses. You're probably the ones who taught your own children how to put on their clothing, how to take off their clothing, how to brush their teeth. You taught them what sounds animals make. You taught them the names of animals. You taught them colors. You taught them shapes. Home education and being a homeschool parent does not mean just a parent who's registered with the government that I officially homeschool my child. I believe that every parent is a homeschool parent because we are the primary teacher for our children. Whether we choose to outsource the legal requirements to a school or whether we choose to outsource just individual classes. I'm going to hire someone to teach my child guitar. Maybe I'll hire someone to teach them martial arts. We all outsource various things to other people, but at the bottom line, at the root of everything, we are our children's primary main teachers. We are from birth and we are all the way through because our children are attuned to learn from us more than they are from any other person in the world. Again, even like studies, there are these beautiful studies of newborns in utero, babies are attuned. They know their mother's voice. That's the voice they want to listen. It's the voice that calms them and soothes them. And we have the potential to carry that throughout their lives. Can we ruin it? Absolutely. Not every child wants to hear from their parents all the time. But do we have the power? Do we have the potential? Do we have the natural ability to be the one who teaches our children more than anybody else? Again, even if you sent a child to school, even if your children are out of the house because they are either registered in school or maybe they're grown up and maybe they're living out of your home, they are still attuned to you. They are still watching you. They are still learning from you. This isn't a choice we get. It's not like we can just check out of this parenting thing and say, oh, don't bother learning from me. Just go listen to your teacher. It doesn't work that way. Like it or not, from the moment they're born, our children are watching us. Our children are learning from us. Our children are absorbing what we do. So when I talk about home education and when I say, is this right for you? I'm really not just speaking about, have you registered with the government to say that you're responsible for your child's education? Because some of you, yes, some of you, no, some of you, maybe, some of you, never. And it really doesn't change the reality, which is that each and every one of us are the primary teachers for our children. They are waiting to learn from us all the time. There's a story, there's a beautiful story that I like very much. It's in the Talmud, which is the oral law of there's the written law, the five books of Moses, and then we have the oral law, which expounds and explains it. And there was a rabbi, a teacher named Rabbi Chia, and he wanted to make sure that the Torah, that Jewish biblical traditional wisdom, would not ever be forgotten. And so he took 11 orphans and he spun flax and he harvested the flax and he wove it into nets to catch deer, which he then tanned their hides into parchments, and he wrote on those parchments 11, each parchment had one part of the five books of Moses, so they had five, and then the six parts of the oral law. So there were 11 pieces, which he then taught to 11 orphans. Each one mastered one area and then was able to teach the others. And the question is, this is very nice that he wanted to teach biblical Jewish tradition. He wanted to make sure it wouldn't be forgotten. But why did he need to take orphans? Why didn't he go take the 11 brightest kids in the school system that he could find? Or why didn't he go, make a raffle and with the lottery, the lucky winners will get to learn? He picked orphans. And the reason he picked orphans is because he knew that the best, most foundational way to teach someone is if and only if you are the one that loves them more than anybody else in the whole world does. And if there were children who had parents alive, he, Rabbi Chia, would not be able to be their main primary teacher. And so he had to pick children who he could become a father figure for, who he could be that parent, because that's how you authentically teach and transmit and help a child grow and learn. And I want to be so clear, I'm not implying that that's the only way to do it. And I'm not implying that our children cannot have wonderful, meaningful, educational, rich relationships with teachers and with other mentors. Of course they can, of course they will. But at its core, at the very deepest part of what makes a child learn and grow, it's a parent. It's the relationship with a parent. It's a power that we have, and it's a power that we want to hold dear. It's a privilege, and it comes with a responsibility too, because nobody can figure out better than us what our kids need. Nobody can understand and think through and have the resources to be able to give our children what they need as much as us. Again, does that mean we're going to do it all ourselves? Absolutely not. We're going to go and we're going to reach out and we're going to ask for advice and we're going to get help and we're going to find other people who can do things. But the basic bottom line is we are our children's best teacher. And the way I know this is actually because your children are the one thing in your life that you didn't get to select and choose. You picked your spouse, you picked your job, you picked where to live, you picked your neighborhoods, you picked all types of things in your life. You know what you didn't pick? You didn't get to pick your kids. You did not get to select them from this, order form of I would like to have someone who's very low key and patient and calm and bright and beautiful. No, you get what you get. And who's the one who gives you your children? That comes from God. And when God gives you a child, it's because he knows that you are the best person in all of history and in all of the world to raise this child. It's his vote of confidence in you. And he gave your child you, and he gave you your child because both of you are to each other what nobody else in the world can ever possibly be. And so when you look at your children and you're busy thinking, what should I do with them next year? And where should they go to school? And if they're going to go to school, how can I enrich and how can I give them extras? And how can I keep a close relationship with them? And if I'm going to be homeschooling them, how on earth is that going to work? Well, all of that are questions that are things to think about much later. The very first thing we have to do is get completely comfortable and confident with the idea that we have what it takes to give our kids whatever they need. You have everything in you. Does that mean you're doing it single handedly? No, it doesn't. It does mean that we need to feel this core of confidence that God chose you to give you your children because you are their teacher. He made you to be their perfect teacher. He set up the relationship that they are attuned to you and they're trying to learn from you and they're listening to you. And you're the one who can look in their faces in the morning and see, oh, something's a little bit off. There's something wrong a little bit today. There's no sparkle in your eye. And no one else is going to notice that. But you're going to be able to notice that. Or conversely, you'll be able to see your child just come alive at something, at some conversation or some piece of music or activity or whatever it is. And you're going to know, yeah, that's what's giving you energy and life right now because that is the special relationship that parents have. And so before we start thinking about the nitty gritty of, where's my children learning? How are they going to learn? How am I going to teach? How am I going to hire teachers? Am I going to send them to school? Am I not? I really believe it's important to recognize we are all homeschoolers. Every single parent is a homeschooler, like it or not, just because you have a child and your child is learning from you all the time. Okay. I do want to invite you because it does look like we're not going to be a super large group on the live chat right now. So if you do want to unmute yourself and pop in with questions at any time, we can definitely do that. Otherwise, I will hold off and in about 40 minutes, I will stop and then open the floor up to all of you and we can chat and discuss and take it wherever you want it to go. So let's talk for a little bit now about what does it mean? How do children really learn? It's very, very tempting to think that a child is like a computer that you just program in. A makes the ah sound. Two plus two is four. And then they learn. And so you're just kind of like filling them up, just, putting data inside of them. But we all know that that's actually not at all how people learn. It's not how people grow. A teacher is not someone who fills a jug, but one who ignites a fire. I forget who said it, but it's a great quote, because the learning has to come from inside. It has to come from a desire to learn. It has to come from a resilience that's willing to work through hard concepts and things that you don't understand and you don't get, and you keep trying and trying, and then all of a sudden it clicks. No one can give that to you. No one can break down the whole world of knowledge into tiny digestible chunks that just get fed to you the way you feed, food to a goldfish. Education and learning is something that has to happen from a person who's alive, a person who's curious, a person who's interested, a person who wants to learn. And if you don't want to learn, you can have the best teachers in the world and it's going to be worthless and it's going to be pointless. And the primary model, by the way, the analogy I want to share with you here is the Passover Seder. This is the highlight of the Jewish year, where parents teach their children, this is what happened to our nation. We were slaves in Egypt and God redeemed us. And the whole format of that evening is one of questions and answers. It's all about questions. It's all about getting the children to ask questions, to be engaged in asking questions. Because if they don't want to learn, you are wasting your breath speaking to them. You are there to inspire curiosity, to ignite curiosity, to make them eager to learn. And that's why the best teachers don't just start off with here are the notes for today's lesson. They start off by asking questions. They start off by having the children get to a place where they say, oh my goodness, I never thought of that before, but why is the sky blue? And then when you have a question, then you can be the one who helps a child develop and find an answer. And so our job is not to feed pieces of information to our children. And honestly, our children are born wanting to know, right? They're born wanting to understand things. They're born. Who doesn't have a toddler who asks a million questions all the time? Why, what, when, how? They want to know. And so our job is to be there at the right time when they want to know and give them the bite-sized information that they can digest, and then ask for more, and then ask for more, and then ask for more. It doesn't come, people very often say, well, how do you come up with a curriculum? Or how do you come up with, how do you know that you're covering everything you need to cover with your children? Well, you can. Of course, you could Google and you could find lists and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, what you're doing is you're feeding your child what they're ready to learn as they're ready to learn it, because they're eager, because they're curious. And again, this doesn't matter whether you officially homeschool or whether you don't officially homeschool. Even if you send your kids to school all day and you say, but I really want to give them something extra. I really want to give them some enrichment. The first step is not what you're giving them. The first step is to awaken their interest. The first step is to awaken their curiosity. The first step is to get them on board where they want to go and explore and discover and uncover, because then they're going to be open to learning. They're going to be ready to learn, and they're going to have within themselves the ability to absorb information, to integrate information, and to be able to actually grow and learn in a positive way. Um, what I'd like to do now is jump with you. We're gonna like go up in an airplane, like an elevator, and go way, way, way up to like the bird's eye view, the 20,000-foot level. Because when we are busy thinking about, well, what are we gonna do for our kids' education next year, whenever, the following year, the summer, it's so easy to get caught up in all the details. In fact, when people call me and they do like a coaching session and it's specific to either homeschooling, or it's specific to my child is in school, but there's a catch, there's a problem, there's something that I want to address and enhance or enrich or whatever it is. Very, very, very often they all start with, what can I do? Tell me, what's the right program? Have you ever heard of this online program? What about this book? Have you read this? What about this game? And it's, what about this activity? What do you think about martial arts for my child? What do you think about music? There's a zillion ideas that are floating through their heads. And they're floating through mine too. I have the same exact instinct because we want to give our children the best of the best. And so we're so full of ideas and we're so full of everything we read about and we see and we hear. And we're like, oh, that may be good for our child. Oh, what a great idea. Look what my neighbor does. Let me try that too. And we get bogged down and caught up in all the myriad of details instead of rising up to that 20,000-foot level and first saying, what does my child need right now? And so when I have these calls, that's what I do is we back up and I say, you know what, let's just back up. Let's just talk instead. What is it? What is it that you want your child to get? What is it that your child is ready to work on, ready to grow in? What area is he ready to learn in? Maybe all you really want to do is actually give your child a love of learning because your child's love of learning has been dampened or turned off. Maybe you want to give your child a rich inner life because you feel like they're disconnected from themselves. Maybe you actually do have very technical goals, like I want my child to be able to go to X high school in 2 years, and in order to do that, they're going to need to pass an entrance exam, and in order to do that, they're going to need to learn these skills that they don't currently have. Those are all valid whys, but we need to have that basic why question and those questions answered before we start getting into the details of what we're doing with our kids. So I'm going to suggest, I really do mean this, that you run and take a piece of paper and a pen and come right back. And we're going to start brainstorming. I'm going to start giving you the types of questions to think about now for your children. They're not going to give you the answers. It's not, I'm not going to say to you, oh, you know, there's this amazing math program. Let me tell you what it is. Because the first step is to understand what your child's actually ready for, what your child actually needs. And so you're going to get this piece of paper. We're going to get our big pictures ideas started. You're not going to get it all worked out now. You're going to think about it and it's going to percolate and you're going to finish tomorrow and next week and next month. But this is where I start with everybody and it's where I start with myself. That we need to not get caught up in the small, detailed decisions which lead us to just spend a lot of money on things we don't ever use, but instead to start with the big picture questions. What does your child need most right now in 5 key areas? And if you've been with me a while, you've heard these before, but do it now. It's an exercise that's worthwhile. Academically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And then we're going to do a sixth area on the back of the paper about what relationships they need. So let's start with the first section. So just write down on your paper, academic. Because when you said to yourself, oh, I'm going to some event about home education, you were probably thinking about academics. So let's start with thinking about your child right now. What are they, first of all, what are they interested in? Sharks, dolphins, stars, planets, um, electricity, um, Legos. Maybe there's nothing academic. Maybe they have no academic interests whatsoever. And that's what you're going to write down. Oh, my goal is going to be to spark, to awaken some interest, some curiosity in anything. I don't even care what. What are they up to in learning? Are they able to read? Can they read comfortably? Can they understand what they read? Do you know how many children can read and have no idea what they're reading by the time they're finished? Can your child have an interesting conversation with you about a story they just read? Is your child ready for chapter books? How about writing? Every little child is full of things they want to tell you, right? They want to narrate, they want to talk, and at a certain point, it usually switches over into wanting to get it down on paper. And so maybe that's something your children are ready for, interested in. How about math? Do they have number sense? Do they understand how numbers work? Do they multiplication facts, addition facts? Like, where are they now? Where are they now? And is there anything that comes to mind for you as you know, this is the direction that I think they're ready to move into? Not in like a big 10-year plan. I want my child to be able to do calculus. But right now, you know, I've noticed that my child asks me a lot of questions about negative numbers. I wonder if they're ready to start playing around with integers or number lines. Um, and again, for some of you, for some of your children, it's not even about the nitty gritty of the academics. Maybe for your child, academics is just, I want them to not hate learning. I want them to have a positive association with learning. I want them to be able to believe in themselves that they are capable of learning something that seems difficult, because my child is so full of self-defeating energy and just feels like he can't, he can't, he can't. This academic area could go in 100 different ways. If anybody wants to unmute yourselves and give ideas or what's going through your heads right now, I would take it too, because this is all, we all have so many different areas in academics, just thinking about our child. What are they ready for? Who are they? Not who I want them to be, not who I wish they could be, but who are they right now, and what right now are they is important to them. If your goal is like, there's someone who I know signed up for this, whose goal specifically is to get their child into a certain high school in a couple years, that's great. But in order to do that, right now, what does your child need? Right now, right now, what are the, not just the skills, but the tools and the qualities and the character traits that are going to help him get to that academic milestone? I don't want anyone to think now about the hows. I don't want you to start writing down, oh, this curriculum or that activity or this enrichment. We're just thinking about your child, focusing on your child. Who are they? What are they interested in? What are they ready for? And it could be you don't know. Maybe your child's in school and you've kind of you've been a little, you're not involved. You've been checked out. You have a bunch of kids. You have no idea what they're learning or what they're ready to learn. So this is why you start percolating. Let it sit in the back of your mind. Talk with your spouse about it. Check in with their teachers about it. Ask to look at some of the work. What do you love doing in school? What are you enjoying? What do you wish you could learn? Just start your brain thinking, to be able to have a picture in your mind of where academically your child is, and what the next step on that journey is, what that would look like. There's no pressure here. This is just a brainstorming session. And then when we've done academics, and we're never done, you're going to come back to it later. We can do the same thing with them physically. What's your child like physically? What are they ready for physically? So, for example, is your child a child who really thrives on team sports and, baseball and soccer, and they really need to have that type of large group interaction? That should go down. Maybe you're saying to yourself, oh, you know what? It's like I realized that swimming, we never did swimming. That would be a good thing. That's something that either they're very ready for, or I noticed that they find water very soothing. And so this might be something that would be helpful for them. Maybe you would start thinking here martial arts or yoga. What physically brings your child that sense of calmness? You know, when you can look at your child's face and you just like see that they're at peace, that this is a good place for them. Think about it. Remember it. What is it that brings them to it? For some children, it's a certain physical type of activity. Maybe it's a certain physical environment. Maybe it's being outdoors, running outdoors, biking outdoors. And for other kids, maybe it's the actual activity or the environment or who they're with. um, Coordination. You're the parent. Are you noticing? Are they coordinated? It's too much of a topic to throw in here really right now, but the connection between the brain and the body is like super huge and super big and super strong. And very, very, very often, if there's a blockage in the learning in the brain and the wires of the mind and emotions, very often it comes back to the body and to a lack of coordination and things just not moving well. And you can do exercises, and you can practice skipping, and you can practice cross body, hands to knees, and there's all types of things you can do, but you first have to be aware of it. You first have to just stop and brainstorm, like, what does my child need physically? What do they enjoy physically? What do they struggle with physically? What are they ready for physically? Again, this is not the time to start saying, oh, I just saw this tennis camp advertised. Let me go sign them up for that. And oh, they need to have swimming lessons. Let me check in with that. No, this is you brainstorming. This is the chance for you to just think about your child. You're just thinking. And the amazing, amazing thing is that when we do this exercise, where we just think about our children, over the next few weeks and months, you are going to see that you're going to be more attuned to the right opportunities for them. You're going to notice the right activities. You're going to notice the right programs. You're going to notice the right people because you spent the time clarifying what is right for my child. And if we don't think about what is right first, we spend our energy in 100 different directions, but we don't actually hit the jackpot each time. Then we'll move to the third section of your paper, and that's going to be social. Think about your child socially. Are they someone who is energized by being around a lot of people all the time? Are they someone who really just needs some quiet time, some time alone? Who do they like hanging out with? You know, we're so conditioned to thinking that children need to be around kids their own age because our whole society is built around school, but it's not true. I had a child at one point who needed to have peers his own age in very measured doses. But you know who he loved being around and who he was so happy and at peace when he was with? It's going to sound funny, but it was true. Senior citizens and babies. And as soon as I realized that about him, I stopped trying to make sure he was in every single group activity with all the kids his own age all the time. And I started finding opportunities for him to go be a mother's helper for people who had babies, go visit senior citizens and just play games with them, go volunteer at a nursing home. Social does not mean, it does not necessarily exclusively have to mean kids your own age all the time. And I want to also stress that our children are growing and changing all the time. That child today is fantastic with his peers. He's very social. He's very happy to get along with people his own age. It wasn't a forever and ever type of thing. You're only going to ever be able to talk to old people and babies. No, at that particular point, at that particular stage, that was really what resonated with him. But that doesn't mean this is who your child is going to be forever and ever. And when we do this whole activity, you're going to see in 6 months, maybe you'll do it again, or in a year, you'll do it again. And you'll look at this sheet from a year ago and you'll say, wow, my child has changed so much. They've grown so much. Because when we meet our children where they are, we're not locking them into that you're going to be like this forever. We're meeting them where they are so that we can give them what they currently need to be able to thrive and grow the most. It's like a gardener who has a big greenhouse. And instead of just giving every plant the same exact acidity of soil and sunlight and amount of water and everything else, he spends the time thinking, oh, this plant, you really need a lot of sunlight. Let me move you by the window. Oh, this plant, you need, very sporadic irrigation. So let me not water you today. And that allows the plants to actually grow and thrive and become strong so that they can then handle things like droughts or the wrong amount of sunlight or the wrong temperature. But it's only because you give the young ones what they need. I know the analogy is not perfect and I'm not a gardener. But when you give a young child, when you give them what they need, meeting them where they are, who they are, you're not condemning them to stay like that. You're doing the opposite. You're giving them the soil within which they can really lay down roots and they can really strengthen themselves and they can really stretch and grow and develop in a great way. So if any of this activity is making you nervous, like, oh my gosh, I just realized my kid doesn't get along with other kids his age very well. It's not that I'm not telling you he's going to be like that forever. I'm just saying let's acknowledge it right now. Because when we acknowledge what types of people bring out the best in my child, what types of people leave my child feeling full, emotionally full, satisfied, happy, at peace with themselves, you as a parent, we should know this. We should know what fills our children up and what doesn't. Does your child thrive in groups? Do they have trouble with group settings? What personalities do they respond well to? Again, another one of my children, um, there was a certain personality that was like just fire and water, just real, real, real clash. And I needed to recognize that. I needed to see the pattern so that when more opportunities came up and when new classes were offered and when new opportunities were offered, I could look and say, ooh, let me just, this instructor, this teacher, he's going to be great. I can tell because this is the type of personality he really responds well to and loves. And another one, I'd be like, you know what, we're going to pass on that opportunity right now because this isn't the right one. Do we always have the option to do this? Absolutely not. If your child is in school and they're going to get the teacher they get, they may not always have a personality match, but you need to know that it's a personality match or a mismatch. It's not because there's something wrong with your child. It's not because there's something wrong with the teacher. It's a personality mismatch because you've noticed and you've paid attention and you've seen that this type of person works well with your child. This type doesn't. Again, for now, they will grow, they'll mature, they'll be able to deal with difficult people. But often when there's a problem, it's not a problem because there's something inherently wrong or difficult or challenging with your child. Sometimes it's really just that social mismatch. Sometimes it's a physical mismatch. Your kid needs to keep running and moving, and the classroom environment doesn't let them do that. And sometimes it's an academic mismatch, and sometimes it's the other areas, which we'll go through now. But being able to have an understanding of your child is what's going to allow you to know how to help them, how to give them the right opportunities, how to help them be the best they can be and grow the best they can grow. So the next section of your paper, you're going to label emotional. And now we're going to just think a little bit about your child's emotional life. What brings them peace? What brings them serenity? What brings them happiness? What stresses them out? What makes them anxious? What exhausts them? What rejuvenates them? Music, nature, time outdoors, time with you, time alone with you without siblings, maybe time with siblings, music, pets, animals. What what is your child? What taps into their soul in a deep emotional way? And what do they need to work on emotionally? We're all working on ourselves emotionally all the time, and children for sure. What are your goals for your child for right now? Again, not your like by the time they're 25, I want them to be emotionally calm and healthy and all that. Right now, does your child need to work a little bit on maybe flexibility, on not being rigid in their thinking and their expectations? Black and white. Maybe they need to work right now on being able to handle disappointments. Maybe they need to work on learning how to calm themselves when they're upset, or keeping their emotions a little bit more not neutral, but less intense when they're very excited and very happy. What emotionally are they ready? Or do you want to help them learn and acquire right now? Maybe you want to help them develop a more positive attitude to learning, to academics, to school. Maybe it's a more positive attitude about their family. Maybe it's a more positive attitude about themselves. Just sit and think about your child. Think about them emotionally. What are the touch points that set them off? What is it that calms them down? What do they need? What are you hoping to be able to give them right now emotionally? And finally, the last area of these five is their spiritual life. And when I talk about spiritual life, I'm not just talking about the technicalities of being a person of faith. I'm not talking about, well, do they know how to pray? Do they know how to study scriptures or Torah? I'm talking about an attitude and a feeling. Does your child have positive connotations, positive feelings about spirituality, about God, about their faith, about the people who represent faith to them in their lives? And if so, what's the next step? What's the next stage? Where else could they deepen and expand and broaden their spiritual world? And if not, what area do you want to highlight and say, gosh, this right here, this is what I wish I could give them. I wish I could just give them a faith, a trust that God is holding them, that they're going to be okay, or whatever it is. This is the brainstorming that we're doing now. Again, you're not finishing this now. There's no way. But you can start now and you can come back to it tomorrow. You can come back to it next week. You can discuss it with your spouse. Let these five areas, just let them percolate a little bit, who your child is. Because once we're clear on that, Then the decisions of, gosh, well, what should we do for them for school next year? And if they're going to go to school, how am I going to make it work? And how am I going to be able to help them have a great year? Or if they're going to be homeschooling, what type of schedule am I going to do? And what type of curriculum am I going to do? And how am I going to manage it? Those all come after we clarify who our children really are and what they really need. And flip the paper over, because on the back of the paper, we're going to do something different, not one of these five categories. We're going to brainstorm for just a minute the people you have in your life, the people that you know who may be a relationship that could be there for your child, of someone that you can connect your child with that would be positive, that would be someone who can give them not just attention or not just love, though sometimes that's all it is. That's enough. But maybe there are people who can communicate to them messages that you can't, or teach them skills. We just had my husband and I were just discussing what we're going to do with one of our children for next year, and my husband reminded me that we have a neighbor who lives nearby who is a woodworker, and he would love nothing more than to spend time woodworking with our child. And our child, it would be amazing. It would be perfect. That's a relationship. Do I know if they're going to woodwork? No. Maybe my son is just going to go hang out and he's going to sweep his floor for him. I don't know. But it's a relationship that I want to keep in the back of my mind. Oh, you know what? That's a person I want to connect my child to. Maybe you have neighbors down the block. And again, all ages. This is don't limit yourself. It could be there are friends your child's age that you want to build connections with. I think this would be a great friend for my child. They live nearby. I'm friends with the parents. That could certainly be true. But it also could be someone who's a totally different age range. In our children's lives, my kids were very close to our neighbor. She lived to be 96. And when her daughter, she was living in her daughter's house, and when her daughter was at work, and our kids would go over and listen to her stories about what it was like to be a child almost 100 years ago, it was giving our children so much positivity. And it was also a help to our neighbor and to her mother, who now had opportunities to socialize and people to talk to during the day. Maybe there are religious leaders, faith leaders that you know that you can connect your child to. Again, not the details of how. This is just the big picture, like, hey, what types of people might be opportunities for my child to connect to? I want to clarify here because we have a really broad age range of people who have signed up for this. The very young kids don't really need much other than you. They need you. If they get extended family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, that's a bonus. That's wonderful. But when you're talking about ages 10 and up, when we move into the older ages, they need other people. They need relationships with other people, and they need them to be relationships that you have fostered, that you have developed. They don't need to know that. You don't need to say, oh, I really think it's important for you to get to know so and so, because that can backfire. But you have to be the one to call someone up and say, you know what, I really think my child would really get so much out of spending time with you. Is there a way we can make that happen? So who your child, might be good to interact with them. So all of this whole activity, this whole sheet now, front and back, is not about trying to figure out the details on your schedule and the curriculum. You're letting things start to sit and percolate. And it doesn't matter if your children are in school or if they're going to be homeschooled. This activity is going to give you clarity so that when you're ready for the next step of, okay, well, what books can I use? What activities can I use? What websites should I use? You're going to have a framework within which you're going to know, oh yeah, that's a good one, that's not a good one, because you cannot possibly focus on everything and do everything. Um, Let me come back to that actually. When we talk about home education, and for those who joined later, I call all of you, you're all home educators. It doesn't matter where your kids are in school, because you're all engaged in their education. You're all intentional, you're all involved, you all see yourselves as being an important person in your child's growth and development. So, in that framework, home education is not, it's not a let me now teach you the capital of Morocco. It is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle of learning and growing and creating an environment within which your individual child, your individual family can flourish and grow. And it reflects your deepest values, your priorities, nobody else's. There are an infinite number of things we want our children to learn. There are an infinite number of experiences we want them to have. There are an infinite number of people we want them to get to know. There are our dreams for our children are so huge, and we cannot possibly do them all, which means we need to be very, very clear on what is most important. And whenever you know what is most important, that's what you know you can focus on right now. And you're going to then say no to everything else that comes along. I don't know. Let's say when you did this activity a few minutes ago, as you were doing the different areas, you said to yourself, whoa, you know what? I'm realizing my kid's biggest priority right now is emotional development. Or maybe you said, no, my kid's doing great, but socially they're ready for something more. Or maybe you said it differently. Maybe you were like, oh, everything's kind of okay, but oh, academics, I know they're struggling. You get a priority that you can focus on, but you cannot focus on all of them because if you focus on everything, you have nothing. I was at one of my kids was doing a baseball league, and a few weeks ago I was at a game, and there was another child there who was, to be honest, he was a wreck. He was really falling apart. He was in tears multiple times, and I heard him say to his father, and the father say to him, oh, you got to pull yourself together because from here we're going to, I forget what the next thing was. It was Boy Scouts or whatever it was. And then the father turned around and said to the other ones, yeah, we came straight from school to this other program he has. Again, I don't remember what it was. Now to baseball practice. And then he has another one. Of course, the kid's a wreck. You can't possibly try and give your child every experience and also think they're going to have serenity and peace and time to connect with you. In order to say yes to some things, you are going to have to say no to other things. And in a homeschool world, the way that works for me personally is if there's a year that we are going to have one of my children is going to have a more intense class in whatever subject, maybe they want to have a high level math. That year, we are not doing an intense writing. That year, we are not doing a lot of science. You can't do everything to the top level. You just can't. And so, if you're looking to enrich your children's lives, if you're looking to keep a family connection with them, even if they're in school, if you're looking to keep a strong family connection and they're homeschooling, you have to know what your biggest priority is because you will have to say no to other things in order to make that happen. We cannot give everything to everybody all the time. And so we get to choose what activities reflect our priorities. When you're with your child in the car, it's a choice you make. Does everyone listen to their own thing on their own headsets? Do we as a family listen to music together? Do we listen to stories together? Do we listen to a podcast together? Do we have a conversation together? Do we go around the car and everybody share something, whatever it is you want to do? Do we play games in the car, like finding all the letters of the alphabet outside the window? It's a choice you're making every moment you're with them. What do I want to do? And it can be different things, different times, of course. It's not like you have to do the same thing all the time. But we have so many more options than we think we do, as long as we're comfortable saying no. As long as we're comfortable saying, this is not my priority right now. And therefore, I know you so badly want to be able to go out and play after dinner, but I'm saying no because I know that you really need to get to bed at a good time tonight, and it's not going to happen if you go out and play with the neighborhood kids. Or maybe the other way around. Maybe I know how important it is for you to have the opportunity to play with the neighborhood kids. And therefore, who cares about bedtime tonight? You'll sleep late tomorrow. But we have to be clear on what the priorities are. Along with this idea that there's an infinite number of things that we want to be able to teach our children and share with our children, I want to answer this question of, well, what if I miss something? What if I don't teach them something really important? What if there's something that they're in a school, but the school doesn't teach? And I'll tell you straight out some of the things that some schools aren't teaching anymore. Things like telling time on an analog clock. Things like counting coins, coin denominations and money. They're not teaching that, or they're teaching it, but it's like a worksheet and your kid has never used coins, so they don't really actually learn it. Things like cursive handwriting. There are things, whether you're homeschooling or whether you're sending to school, that are not going to be taught. And we need to understand we are all missing things in our education. None of us know everything. None of us know how to do everything. We're all limited. We're all finite. And so I don't think we need to stress over, oh my goodness, I'm going to realize one day I'm going to wake up and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to teach my child, I don't know, something super important that they're going to need. I don't think it works that way. I think that if we stay alert and aware, and if we are being conscious to connect to what our child really needs and who our children really are, we are going to be open to things when they come along. Opportunities will come the right way. And maybe you will. One day you'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't think I ever taught you the months of the year. And so you'll start singing a song at supper time or in the car, the song of the month of the year. Um, it happens to me all the time where I realize, oh, you know what? I'm not sure this child knows something. So you put it to a tune, and I'll give you my favorite one. The tune, This Old Man, he played one. You could put anything to it, just memorize everything to it. Row, row, row your boat. It also works really, really well. And sing them with your kids. If you forget something, you can always teach it to them. The more important part is that you're developing a child who wants to learn, who has the ability to learn, who has the skills to learn. And then more often than not, your child will come to you and say, Mom, I don't know how to do this. Could I learn? Because that desire is what the key is right there. Um, Okay, yeah. So when we talk about educating our children, it's not about checking the boxes. It's not about making sure they can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, though that's part of it. And there are skills that are important. And I'll actually put here right now, because this is something that I think a lot of schools do not do anymore, and it's important. When your children are young, they are primed to be able to memorize things. Again, putting it back to tunes. This is the time. They should be memorizing their math facts, and hopefully, and they should be memorizing the president of the United States if you live in America, and they can memorize geography and they can memorize verses from the Bible. They have the ability to memorize when they're young, and it's a skill that you want to give them when they're young so that when they're older they actually have the ability to be able to do it. Because when a 15-year-old is faced for the first time with, oh, I have to memorize quadratic formula, but I've never memorized, I haven't memorized something, I've never been asked to memorize something, they really don't know how to do it. And so that is just a minor thing that I think, but you can think differently. You can say, no, that's not important for my child, and that's totally fine. When we talk about this fear of, I'm going to miss something, I'm going to deny my child, I'm going to deprive my child, it's usually not real. It's a fear. But our children are, again, if we make them people who are primed to learn, if we create an environment which is rich in learning, not an environment where they are on screens, where they are absorbing and taking in entertainment, but an environment where they're actually alert and aware and curious and engaging with the world, you are going to have your children asking you yourself. They're going to come to you and they're like, hey, mom, what's that? What's the shape that a stop sign is? What's that called? I don't know. They'll ask you 100 questions and then you'll teach them what you need to teach them. I started off by saying that you know that you are the best teacher for your child because God gave them to you. And I want to end on this note as well, that each of our homes is an intensely private, personal place. And what's important in my home is not necessarily what's going to be important in your home. And what I decide is important for my children to do, to learn, to grow, to participate in, is not going to be the same thing that you and yours do. We all have to spend that own time figuring out what works for us. You can have this dream, oh yeah, I would love to homeschool, but bottom line is that's not you, that's not your spouse, that's not your home, that's not your children. Well, then trying to squeeze them into a round peg into a square hole isn't going to serve anybody any good. We need to be honest about who we are, who our kids are, and look inwards, not outwards. When a couple gets married, a Jewish couple gets married, one of the blessings we give them at the wedding ceremony is that they should be like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And this is something that I love very, very much because what was unique about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? They had no one to compare themselves to. There was no one to look over their shoulder and feel inadequate or to feel resentful. How come you don't do this for me? Don't you know Mr. So and so does that for his wife? Or what kind of child are you? Look at this other kid down the block. There was no one to compare them to. They built a home that was totally inward focusing. And that's really our responsibility, that we are the linchpins of our homes. We have the responsibility to build our homes. It doesn't mean we can't ask for advice. It doesn't mean we can't listen to what other people have to say. It doesn't mean we're not going to be open to other ideas. But the end of the day, the bottom line is this is my home and it's my responsibility to determine, to make it what it's meant to be. And very often, when you make educational choices that are not standard, you might find a lot of people coming up to you and telling you their opinions and why they think you're wrong. And here's the line that you can learn to say. This is what we decided works for our family right now. End of conversation. Maybe in a month it won't work anymore. I'll get back to you then, no problem. I'm not saying it needs to work for your family. This is what works for our family right now. And these decisions that you're making, again, no matter what your choices are, because there are people here who have our kids in school and they're never going to homeschool, and kids who are homeschooling and they're not even thinking about school. It's not about your choices. It's about understanding that we are not rigid in what we're giving our kids. We're not locked into this is the choice we made and this is the way it's going to be forever and ever and ever, no matter if it's good, no matter if it's bad. We are going to constantly be engaged and noticing and paying attention and doing this exercise with the 5 key areas and the relationships so that we can be responsive and we can help make whatever situation our child is in, whether they're homeschooling, it's not going to be perfect. Whether they're in school, it won't be perfect. But if we can be aware, then we can be responsive and we can try and tweak things and we can try and help things and we can try and engage in a productive and positive way because we're not dogmatic. We're not saying this is the way it has to be and like it or lump it. We're going to be a little bit more nuanced. And to end on a closing note here, also bringing it back to where we began before I share with you what I'm hoping to be able to offer to you and also open up the floor to you for conversations, questions, anything you want to elaborate on. Um, this is a theme that if you've been with me for a while, you know I come back to this again and again, but I really believe it's at the core of what we are doing as parents. We are not alone. We we are the human partners along with God in giving our children life. And it is a threesome. And God's role in our child's life does not end at birth. He's really there. And we need to be able to lean into that. And we need to be able to trust that. We need to be able to know that when we need help and we don't know what's right for our child, or we're feeling confused or conflicted, we can turn to Him and we can say, I really need help right now. I don't know what this child needs. And then let it go. And I can't tell you how many times I've done this or people that I've counseled have done this. And then over the next day or two, all of a sudden, a shaft of light comes through. There's just a little bit more clarity. There's just a little bit more sense of, okay, this is my next right step right now. We're not doing this alone. You are not making a decision unilaterally, single handedly. My child must homeschool, or my child must go to school, or my child, whatever. No, you're doing this in partnership with your child's human father and also their heavenly father. And together, you are able to work as a team to help your child grow, to help your child be in the right educational framework, to give your child the enrichment you want them to have, to be able to give them a sense of strong family culture if that's what you feel like they need, to be able to meet whatever your primary goals are, because you're not doing it alone, you're doing it together. So before I open up, and I hope that you will unmute and turn on your cameras and start, going back over any of all of this with any questions you have, I want to share that, like I mentioned at the beginning, this was the bird's eye view. This was the let's move up to the 20,000 feet and kind of just think without any limitations on what is it that I'm trying to give my child? What is it my child needs? What is it my child may need? I don't really know, but maybe this is something to look into, something to think about. But eventually, there's going to come a time that the rubber meets the road. You're going to have to deal with the practicalities. Okay, fine. So I want to homeschool. What do I do? How do I make a schedule? How do I manage multiple kids at one time? Or I'm sending my child to school, but I still want to be a homeschool parent. I don't want to let go. I don't want to not be involved. I don't want to check out of their education. How can I do that? How can I learn to set up the right relationship between them and their teachers, between myself and their teachers, between using the after school hours? How can I practically make that work? And so, what I want to offer you is I'm going to be starting two groups that are going to continue throughout the school year. One group for homeschooling parents, one group for school parents. And it's going to be a small cohort. It's the same people all year long. It's only going to be registrations only open in the summer, so that all year long we're going to get to know each other, and you're going to really be able to develop a strong sense of solidarity and support with people who are like minded as yourself. There are going to be monthly live meetings and discussions on very practical, relevant conversations. Let's talk about math curriculum. Let's talk about how do I help my child's teacher see my true child instead of who they think they see, which is leading to conflict. Very, very down to earth, practical conversations, one a month. Throughout the whole year, along with a constant, an online group, a forum, a conversation that is going to keep going all year long. And I'm very, very, very excited by this because I do think that solidarity and support and a sense of community, a sense having people that you can trust, that you can just ask, hey, this happened. What suggestions do you have? Or how can I make this work? Or, any types of questions. To have a core group of people that can be with you along your journey through the year, that is what I am trying to offer. It's what I'm trying to set up. So that's my new project for the whole year for school parents and homeschool parents, and I consider myself both. I am a homeschool parent for all my kids, even though next year I'm only going to have one of them at home. I have five kids who've moved out of my homeschool already. But like I started with, I'm a homeschool parent no matter where they are because I still see myself as important and involved and engaged. And same for all of you. No matter where your kids are in school, we're there. We are the ones. We are the people that Hashem, that God put in their lives to be able to direct them, to raise them, to help them grow. So I am now going to turn the floor over to anybody here who wants to ask, comment, go back and elaborate, whatever you want. I'm here for you.
I had a question. I don't know if you kind of went over this. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi. So when you were saying like what our child needs, how do I know it's not just like what I want for them? Like what if I'm like, well, I want them to be interested in math, so I'm gonna do math with them.
So I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, we all do that, right? We all say this is an important value to me, and therefore I am going to make this part of my home, right? I'm a word person. I'm kind of like a language person. So you know what? Like it or not, my kids listen to a lot of stories. My kids play a lot of rhyming games with me when they're 2 years old and 3 years old because that's what comes to me naturally. That's what I enjoy. If you're a math person, then what's going to come to you naturally is going to be, oh, we're going to multiply this recipe to, make it, triple it or cut it in half. Or, oh gosh, there's a big container truck on the road. How many live cows do you think could fit in that together if they were all stacked? Some type of estimating questions. I don't think that's a problem. I think that you're going to see as you introduce, let's say, math to your son, either he's going to respond in a positive way, he's going to be engaged with you, he's going to have fun doing the same things you're doing, or he's going to push back on you, or he's going to say, I'm not interested. And then you're going to respond and you're going to adjust. There's no guilty feeling of that you're the parent and you do get to decide. You do get to set the tone for your home, for your family, for what you think is important. And all I'm suggesting here is that you're also being alert, aware, responsive to kind of see your child's, see who they are too, and see what they really need now as well. Does that answer your question, or do you want to keep elaborating?
Yeah. 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 Thank you.
Okay. Shira?
Hi. Okay, so I have a lot of questions, but I'll try to start just with one. Um, so how, if you're trying to untangle, what's going on for a kid who may be dealing with challenges on multiple fronts. So, for example, um, like a lower elementary aged kid who has experience in a classroom, um, and you've decided to change course, um, but you're not sure, you know about some of the challenges they faced, but you're still trying to figure out what's going on. How do you identify like where, like what's currently holding them back? So for example, they might have school trauma, which is holding them back on an emotional level from connecting with their learning, but they might also have, undiagnosed dyslexia. So how do we figure these things out? Like what are the questions to ask, or what are the steps to take to figure out how to get them back to this place of like just getting excited to learn and wanting to learn the things that they also need to learn?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to give it my shot, but I'm also going to suggest that there are other experienced parents here as well. So, feel free to also add in. I think it's a huge question because obviously what I did in 1 hour is oversimplify an awful
Right.
lot because it's just 1 hour. Um, but there are a few things that are coming to mind that I think are important. And one is that understanding that time takes time and that we need to appreciate and accept that our children are growing and unfolding on a timetable that is not our timetable. And very often, especially when we have a child who's dealing with, serious challenges, we just want it to be fixed. We just want to get past this. And we can't. We need to let it unfold in its way at its right time. And we need to be at peace with that unfolding in its right time. We need to trust that if our child is going to be able to heal and things will be able to become clear to us in the right time. And so, for example, when a parent pulls a child out of school and begins homeschooling, not when they start doing it from, a young age, but let's say your child has been in school for, I don't know, till fourth grade, and now you're thinking of homeschooling. One of the big things you'll hear people talk about is you have to give them,
Deschooling.
correct, a month for every year they've been in school, not to learn, not to start your homeschool program, just to figure out who they are, just to unwind, just to get used to this new way of living. And it can be stressful, especially if you're homeschooling for a reason. I want you to be able to do X, Y, or Z. But being able to accept that it's going to take time, that over time things are going to become clear. You can't force things to become clear. Like, have you ever tried like having this conversation with a kid? Well, why did you do that? What's bothering you? And the more you push, the less you understand because you can't. They don't understand what they're doing. But you back up and you just move away and you stop focusing and things, you get little hints, you get little insights, it becomes clear, but it's not on your timetable. Honestly, it's on God's timetable, which is where that faith piece comes in. And the other thing I will just throw in there is that growth is not linear. And so if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, my child is like progressing so slowly and it's like not, everything is so difficult and so long, how's he ever gonna get to a normal stage? Growth is not this linear experience. It's full of sharp jaggeds and peaks and valleys, and when you get him, it's going to all help. It's like going to all unfold together. Very much things are interconnected. I don't know, I thought this was just me, honestly, until I spoke to a very experienced preschool teacher, and as soon as I said this, she said, oh my gosh, I know just what you're talking about. Very often in the spring, after a long winter, all of a sudden is when there's huge leaps in a child. Physically, all of a sudden, they can ride a bike, or mentally, academically, all of a sudden they can read, or all of a sudden they can do something. And it doesn't happen like a little bit in September, a little bit in October, a little bit in November, a little bit in December. You can go through a whole winter of feeling like stuck, 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 stuck. And then the sun shines, spring comes, and all of a sudden your kid's in a totally different place. And it happens all together, it's integrated. So you very often will have the jump in academics at the same time you have a physical jump in development. It's you can have five different areas of concern right now, and without you being aware of it, there could, there's all these interconnections and all these ways that they're all related, and healing one area is going to lead to more clarity or healing in other areas also.
Thanks.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to take on anything here? Any other any other questions or any other specific examples that you want to me to try and take the big picture and kind of narrow it down to your specific situation for anybody?
I guess I would, I think I struggle because, first of all, there's a sense of total overwhelm. Just complete overwhelm. I have a really high energy child, my oldest child. And I almost feel like his needs are impossible to meet. Like he has such a huge need for diversity, variety, activity. Um, that his energy is never contained, and maybe, I need to seriously consider medication for him. But that situation makes it so difficult to manage anyone else in the household because um there's just always this intense energy going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you would suggest that. And partly I've thought about different sports, different activities, and he has asthma on top of it. So it limits his ability to do some of those things. But um the actions needed to go take him out and do those things when needing to deal with other children literally seem impossible just logistically.
Yeah. 100%. I'm like reliving years of my life as I listen to it. Um, a couple things. One is that piece about the relationships. Who else can be there for your child besides for you? Or conversely, who else can be there for your other children if you are really needed in this stage for him? I think is one direction to go in. You cannot do it all. You cannot burn the candles at both ends. You cannot um, be the one who is there for everybody all the time. It's impossible. But perhaps not when you're feeling overwhelmed, and certainly not when you're at home and being called on in a million directions. But go check into a hotel for a night. Give yourself time to just sit with no one calling your name, with no washing machine beeping, with no dishes waiting for you. Go, I mean this seriously. Go give yourself time and just brainstorm who else is there that you can tap into, that you can call upon for help. And I don't know, maybe did you mention an age? Did you say 10 or did I just
Yeah, 10 years old, yeah.
10? Okay. That's starting to be an age where they can start finding jobs. And it could be, walking dogs in your neighborhood, and it can be washing cars, and it can be helping, just helping someone with their errands, or I don't know if they would, um, a boy needs like big tasks, like, like painting fences or painting decks or, brainstorming big projects that might just give him a little bit of direction somewhere that's not directed towards you, that's not directed towards the other kids. That would be one thing I'd think of. Running, I don't come up with, I don't know, brainstorming ways that a boy, and particularly boys, I think they very often they need they need to slay dragons. They need to do something really big and meaningful. And if that means creating your own project to make it happen, that's fine. If it means paying somebody else to be willing to hire your child, then that's also a possibility. But definitely brainstorming outside of yourself, I think is one piece. And another piece I would just say is accepting that we cannot make everything perfect for all our kids all the time. We do. I mean, I think whenever you have more than one child, we all have one child who sucks up more than their fair share of energy. And that's just life. And it doesn't mean that we're failing everybody else. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that all the time. It really won't, because people really do grow and change. But it's okay to acknowledge that right now I'm spread too thin to be able to give everybody what I want to give. We're not expected to be superhuman. We're not expected to do it all. The one thing I would say is if you do have a child, I'm not saying this is your situation. If you do have a child who really is taking more than their fair share of energy and their everything in a big, big, big way, um, when your kids are old enough, I would have the conversation. I would say to them, I know this doesn't seem fair. I know that I'm not, I can't spend as much time with you. And, and be honest with it instead of just ignoring it and assuming that, oh, that's the mature one. They'll understand. They know that that kid needs me more. They may know
Mhm.
it. They may be the mature one. And they also need to hear that I wish it were different. I'm sorry. My job is to give each of you what you need. This child really needs more of me right now, but I love you very much and I am going to be here for you, in every way I possibly can. These are big, these are big issues and they're big questions, which always just brings me back to we're not meant to do it alone. Like I would ask, turn to God. I really need help. I don't know what to do with this child. I can't give him. There was a child for many, many, many years in my home. I felt like they were a bottomless pit. No matter how much I gave them, I was always failing them. And you know what? I don't know. God healed him. Like we're past that. It's over. It lasted for what felt like an eternity, but it wasn't. And it's not our job. It's not our job to be the super moms, to be the superheroes. We can't. Anybody else? Okay. So I'm going to get out the recording as soon, well, not right now because I have children that I've ignored for the last 2 hours. But I will get it out later this evening, hopefully, and share with you the programs that I'm really, really excited by the opportunity to just have a chance to get to know people and work with people in a much smaller group setting consistently throughout the year, constantly on a chat group and once a month in conversations. I think it's going to be a really powerful, powerful experience for families, whether again, no matter what your homeschool or school choice is. So I will hopefully get that out as soon as I can. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity to reflect. Really valuable.
Thank you for joining me. I'm glad it worked out with you to find the link.
Yeah, I searched.
Okay, good.
I found it.
Take care.